Hello, it's Phillip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers, and I'm looking this morning at a book from BUTTERWORTHS' LEXISNEXIS. It's called Cases That Changed Our Lives. Now you can see from the actual picture at the front that the leading case is actually depicted. Donoghue versus Stevenson, the snail and the ginger beer case. This book is about 250 pages long. But it's an excellent book. My wife Elizabeth and I have written a review on Flickr. You can see the book itself is split into 7 parts. What you've got is a very useful series of actual law reports at the beginning by name, and then what you've got at the back are by the subject involved, so the index is extremely helpful as well. There's a very good foreword by Lord Neuberger, and he, in fact, which I will refer to in a minute, comes up with a few very interesting points, because obviously what are you going to include in something like this? We've given it the title Our Famous Common Law Cases, and what we says is the General Editor Ian McDougall, who's Vice President and Legal Director of LEXISNEXIS, was always going to have a problem with the selection of the case law that he's going to put into the volume. There are a lot of people who've contributed, a huge number. It does not matter, therefore, what you select, because there will always be cases which will be excluded, although, as I said, Donoghue and Stevenson is mentioned, although Mrs Carlill, of course, is missing, and he does comment on that. Lord Neuberger sums the selection up well in our view by saying that the cases provide a great insight into the common law. He goes on to describe the essays as drawing out the many different ways in which the common law shapes the world, in which they demonstrate its great strength as well, and its ability to adapt to change and experience. He then concludes that the essays provide a truly informative and accessible contribution to our understanding of the common law and its legacy, and that's what it does. McDougall's preface describes how the compilation took place and the structure of the book, which is a substantial number of eminent contributors, some of whom did this at short notice. The aim of the book is simple and direct. All lawyers, in our view, have an inbuilt need to revisit the great cases of the past. What is perhaps most noticeable from the essays are the insights into the people and the circumstances behind the decisions actually made in the past, and the human face which is presented, which is not always apparent from the law reports, of course. When we read the details of many of the cases set out here, mainly ones we were all familiar with, of course, as students, it became obvious that this work had a much wider readership than just lawyers and students. Recent TV programmes, for instance, often refer to old cases which have a charm or a concern all of their own for the general public. The main cases are listed, as I say, at the front, although the index gives help in tracking them down. McDougall has structured the book of essays in 7 parts to reflect both the important substantive law areas and the ranging controversies of the time, namely covering public law, land law, criminal law, civil law, the right to life, the state and terrorism in the 21st century, which I've called actually liberty, and finally family law. Each part starts with some opening remarks and has some extremely important conclusions which do reflect the orthodoxies of current judicial thinking, although what Lord Denning and some earlier judges would make of judicial decision-making in some decades will forever remain unanswered, although we could invite law students to surmise. The book is actually excellent for law students who, we are sure, will flick through to their own favourites, hopefully if they recognise the names. In the search for improvement in law, where issues are settled for good or sometimes not so good, McDougall paraphrases Thomas Jefferson: "We now do that with the pen that we previously did with the sword." When reviewing famous cases, or cases of celebrity if you like, we can also refer to another American, John Adams, second president, whom Neuberger mentions and quotes. "We live in a world governed by laws, not men," probably hits the right note for the foreword as we modernise our legal thoughts, although the charm and nature of our common law has, in our view, to take account of the men who made the decisions as well. It adds the essential human element to the human condition of case law, which is what, of course, is attractive to so many people who study law. Thank you very much to Lexis and the team. Bye-bye.